Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Jenny. I'm from Jenny Card Designs. Thanks so much for stopping by today. My YouTube channel contains content that is intended to share paper crafting tutorials and inspiration with all of you. I hope that you enjoy. Okay, for today's video, we're going to be making a fun card project using some basic supplies. We'll start off by talking about my Jen-Velope template reference book. This is a book full of templates that I've designed to help you while crafting. So you'll be able to create envelopes and boxes and card projects and so much more with this book. It's got about 40 pages of designs and measurements and different types of projects. And the coolest thing about this book is that each project has a coordinating YouTube video showing you how to use each template. And so for today, we're going to be using the Slimline projects, and we're going to create a Slimline card project with a business style envelope that matches. So I have this pack of pattern paper. It's a 12 by 12 book that I picked up from Michael's, and I wanted to flip through and pick out a pattern that I liked, and I didn't get very far because I really liked this pattern. So I thought I could make something fun with this design. So let's start cutting this up. Okay, first up, I'm going to take this 12 by 12 sheet and I want to create an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock. So across the 12-inch side, I'm going to cut this down to 11 inches. And then I'm going to turn the cardstock and cut it at 8.5 inches. Then I've got one standard sheet of cardstock and a couple of scraps. So we'll put the scraps aside and we'll come back to those in a minute. And now I'm going to pull in my scoreboard and we're going to use the template reference guide and we're going to start scoring. So across the 8.5 inch side, our first score is going to be at 2 inches. And then the second score will be at 6 inches. And then I'm going to rotate the cardstock one turn. And then the next score will be at 1 inch and 10 inches. So once that's done, we're going to take the scoreboard away. We're all done here. And I'm going to grab some scissors. And following along the template reference guide, step number 3 shows us to cut off those 4 corners. So I'm just going to flip it over so you can see better. So you see those scored little corners. We're going to cut those away. So I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut right along this score line. And I'll cut the entire score line away and trim off those little squares. You can save these scraps to create little dimension in your project if you need it. And now we're going to move along to step number 4 in the template reference guide. And this is where we're going to angle cut each of those little flaps. So this measurement doesn't have to be particular. We're just going to go ahead and bring the scissors in and cut at an angle from one corner into where those score lines meet. Okay, and then I'm going to take my bone folder and I'm going to crease all of these folds. So we'll do that very quickly. And then once you're done, you'll have 2 flaps here. There is a larger flap and a smaller flap. The larger flap is going to be the closing part of the envelope that folds up where you adhere together. So we're going to apply adhesive across the bottom of that little flap so that we can close this envelope up. So I'll apply some strong tape runner there and then I'll press everything in. I'll use my bone folder to make sure I get good contact on that paper. And then you see our envelope starting to form. So the next thing I'd like to do is I'd like to round the corners. So step number 5 shows you, this is optional whether you want to round the corners or not. You can choose to go that way or you can skip it, whatever you like to do. I like to round the corners. I think it gives a nice finished look. So I'm going to grab my corner chomper and I'm going to chomp the 2 little corners here on this envelope. Okay, that looks good. Okay, so the next thing that you can do in order to step your envelope up a little bit more is to insert a little paper liner. It just adds a little bit of color and a little bit more of a professional touch. So I have this piece of lemon drop cardstock from Gina K, and it's just a scrap I had in my stash that just happened to fit perfectly. So I just stuck it in there. I used my bone folder to sort of make a guide where I was going to score that flap. So I'll bring my scoreboard and I'll score that right along my little mark there. And I'm going to crease the fold here and I'm going to apply adhesive only to that little flap. Oh, I'm also going to round the corners too, just so everything is cohesive and looks nice. So I'll crease the fold on this little flap here, and then I'm just going to check my envelope. I'm going to put it in to make sure that everything fits nicely. This is a little bit of a thicker cardstock, so if you don't want to use this, you can use something with a little bit of a lighter weight. But I like the way this looks. So I'm going to apply my adhesive, and I don't want to cross that score line, because if we put adhesive on the other part, it may give us a little bit of trouble when we're opening and closing. It'll put stress on the envelope closure. So I just want to apply the adhesive there, and then that gives our lemon cardstock a little bit of room to move as we open and close. Okay, that looks great. I love the way that liner looks. It looks so cute and delicate. This envelope is complete. Okay, let's move along and take some of those scraps, and we're going to create a card. So I'm going to grab a piece of Neenah Classic Crest Solar White cardstock to create my card base. And in my template reference book, I have a list of Slimline card layer measurements, along with the directions on how to cut and score a few different options of Slimline cards. So I'm going to take a piece of cardstock and I'm going to cut it across the 11-inch side. I'm going to cut it at 7 inches. And then I'm going to pop it into my scoreboard across that 7-inch side. And I'm going to score it at 3.5 inches. And then I'll take my bone folder and crease the fold. And then here we have a card base that measures 3.5 inches by 8.5 inches. And this will fit perfectly into our envelope. So now I'm going to take a look at my card layers, and I want to pull in that scrap, and I want to turn this scrap into a full card panel for the front of my Slimline envelope. So I decided to go with the 8 by 3 inch measurement, which is a layer that will fit nicely on my card base. It will leave a nice 1/4 inch border all the way around my card. So I'll just check that to make sure that it looks nice. Okay, I like the way that looks. Next up, I'm going to grab some scraps. I have a bunch of scraps of white heavyweight cardstock just that I have laying around in my craft room from creating card bases, specifically 5 by 7 card bases. I find there's the most waste with those types of card bases, so I keep the scraps so that I can use them as dimension or for stamping sentiments and stuff. So I'm just going to cut up a few layers of that cardstock, and I just kind of eyeball measured it, and I'm going to cut up some strips, and I'm going to adhere them to the back of this panel. I'll just use my tape runner. I'll adhere a whole bunch of pieces and create like 3 or 4 layers of cardstock to create a nice sturdy dimension. And I think it looks really great, and it feels nice and substantial, and it's not going to get crushed or anything like that. So I'll adhere that to the front of my card base. That looks good. Next, I'm going to pull in this strip. I want to remove this little purple strip off of the top of this piece of cardstock, and I'm going to use that purple strip on the front of my card, and then I'll use the pattern paper strip on the inside of my card. I'll just grab my trimmer and measure this purple strip to 8 inches so it fits right across the front panel of my card. And then for the inside of my card base, I want it to go all the way across. So I'm going to measure this strip at 8.5 inches. And then I'm just going to apply some adhesive to both of those. And I'll pop this strip on the bottom inside of my card base. And then I'll pop the purple strip on the front of my card. And this is where I'm going to stamp my sentiment. So I also have these little stickers. These are like a peel off sticker, and this has glitter in it, so it's silver and glitter. I thought that was nice. It would bring a nice finishing touch to the front of this card. So I'm just going to put one of those little strips on the front above my purple strip and trim off any excess. And then next I'm going to grab one of the scraps that are left over from that pattern paper, and I'm going to fussy cut out one of the butterflies. And I just want to be able to create a little bit of dimension on the front of this card. I want to add a couple of foam squares in behind this little butterfly and pop that up right on top of that purple strip. And I like the way that looks. It's super cute. Okay, next I'm going to grab a sentiment. The sentiment I'm using today is from a stamp set from Gina K Designs, and it's from the Stamp and Stencil set. This is a little hello. And I like the little sentiment in here that just says, I really miss you. I think that's just perfect. You know, there's a lot of people that we miss in our lives, and this is a perfect, simple sentiment, and it'll fit nicely on my little strip. So I'll get that loaded up onto an acrylic block and stamp with some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. And I'll do a quick little tester to make sure that it looks good. And it does. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp this right on that little strip on the front of my card. Okay, and that's it for stamping. Super simple. Now I'm going to grab a bunch of these buttercream gems from Pretty Pink Posh. And I'm going to load up my card with a bunch of gems all the way across, just making little clusters and using more gems than I ever have on the front of a card. I use all different sizes and create little groups of 2 and 3 and spread them out all across the card. And I use my Gina K Designs Connect glue and pop those sequins on with my jewel picker, and that's it. Look at all that beautiful sparkle. Super simple. So we only used basic supplies for this card. A couple of pieces of paper, some glue, a few embellishments, and a simple sentiment. And we have this beautiful, amazing card project. Finishing touch here, I'm just going to add a little bit of adhesive to the top of my envelope flap so that we can adhere this and send it away in the mail. I had a little purple strip on the front that I didn't like. I ended up pulling off, and we'll throw that in the garbage. And that is it. This card project is complete. Look how cute this is. This is so absolutely gorgeous. Fits in this envelope so nicely. Everything ties together and coordinates with that patterned paper on the envelope, the inside and the outside of this card. This card project is complete. Here's a close-up look at our finished card and envelope. So if you're interested in my Jen-Velope template reference book, it is currently on sale on my website. Everything will be linked in the description box down below. And also, if you enjoy the Chop It Up series, I have a coordinating template book that I've created that gives you all of the projects that I've created in all of my Chop It Up series. So each video has a coordinating template that you can keep in your stash for project ideas and measurements to create using up your pattern paper. Both of my template books are on sale currently at 40% off, and they ship to US and Canada. If you don't want to buy the physical copy, or if you're international, you can always download the copies and print them yourself to make your own template book. That is it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend it here with me. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. Coming up on screen is a playlist of videos in my Chop It Up series. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all of the things. It helps to support my channel. I appreciate all of the support. Have yourself a lovely day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!